itineraries, industrial shortfalls. Some of you people might just have a second-rate industrial position before you went and had to barricade yourself into people's lives, or like the industry itself overseas might tell you to fuck off because you've got nothing that they want. And then you go ahead and barricade yourself into people's lives, looking for ideas, innovation. That's reputable or commendable in some respect, but what the fuck, you don't pay for your own material? What the hell, you're trying to seek formal recognition for something that isn't yours? You're a country here in Australia that's too busy telling the whole world not to tell somebody's joke. Like if you tell somebody's joke, it's not good enough to tell it again. What's up with that? It's just a joke. Oh, but you didn't make it up. Like you just have this, you're at pace with stolen copyright distribution. That's what you do. What is pirate copy? What is pirate copy distribution? What is embargo? What is fake products like Nike or Adidas spread all over the goddamn Southeast Asia, as if we don't know who might have got the goddamn blueprint? Who knows? What is authenticity in opposed to authorization? What is it to be part of a nanny state where it's so intense that nobody is taking the fall? Honest people, reputable people are not taking the fall like the way in which it should be. Rather, people lose their life or create massive indemnity or crises, even in the political framework of the international community. And why the world fights? They fight. People who don't fundamentally understand the crime they're committing, right? You don't fight. That's why you paid a lawyer to defend you. How do you commit crime and not sort of go straight to jail? How do you sort of not keep it sweet? Or just simply be responsible for your actions? Or have all areas covered? Exercise cover and concealment. You'd be rather idiot in the end if you induced certain acts and then extracted it. Sort of like, you know, submitting your own challenge but then forfeiting it. That's where Islam actually graduated from Christianity. It took Islam probably 600 years to graduate from the rebellious free world that left with Jesus as only shining light to a civilization made by, let's say, the Egyptians that was falling apart and separating from those people. Islam actually graduated from Christianity. Jesus is the most quoted prophet in the Quran. Is to understand that Islam is a form of resignation and submission to the will of God. And that's like the rebellious free world, like the Europeans. They are an inducement and an extraction. You tend to induce and extract. You submit challenges, but you forfeit them. You have a short-term memory loss or a long-term memory loss. You call people names like chickens and maggots and dogs and shit. You sort of steal and get the reputation for it. You'll pass it around the whole world like you invented golf or something, or something. You'll shipwreck on the bottom of South Africa after you massacred half of fucking Australia, as the Dutch people did. And then they'll call it, because of a shipwreck, we just decided to trip fall land here and make a country. Looks like you tried to fucking blast your way as far into Africa as you could and got as far as wherever the fuck deep into it, you know, there. Men on one side by the fucking Shaka Zulu, and right up in the guts of it, you're facing, heading towards freaking God knows where. Tried it all over again. You ever going to take the fall, take the blame? Like the Mackesons of freaking North Australia? Those Dutch? Called New Holland. I thought it was called New Holland. Well, how the fuck is that Australia? That's not Australia. You can blame it on a white person. People call white. White just aren't white. White are every freaking thing. Black people are every freaking thing. Asians are every freaking thing. How can it just be the settlers, the ones that settled everything, that stopped people killing, the ones that helped bloody roll out the world and the wonderful world we see today? You got to be able to know your terms of engagement. You got to understand what it is to be able to take the fall. That's why today Europe is suffering like never before. They're paying some kind of penalty for their price, but then just like religious factors, Australia is the kind of country derivated from Europe that probably would rather see Europe get raped and fucking murdered rather than Australia take the blame because they were too busy, what, escaping Europe? So they could care less? Who the hell wants to see my only friggin' people, Europeans or them? Europeans is our only home. It's all our history. Why would you want to see that go down for the sake of some cheapskate, freeloading fucking historical narkin friggin' fraudulent media publicators and friggin' criminal mercenaries here in Australia? It's one thing to calculate against the masses, but if you can't control the numbers, that's what you're seeing today. A lot of cases they just would have been able to take to face the Middle East properly and not just in some pre-purchase fashion or pre-publicated fashion. Believe in Antichrist. How do you believe in Antichrist but say, we don't believe in Catholics, but we believe in your Antichrist bullshit? The key to unlocking all biblical prophecy is that there is no Satan. There is no demons. If you don't say yes to Jesus, then you cannot even be at par or at parity with an Islam who worships a one God. It's one God you serve. You have to be yes about Jesus. Anything else would be an indemnity held against you and the reality in which you seek, in which you prioritize. It's the greatest, most brilliant warfare of all time to find certain nationalists like you, Australia, in that typical age-old fashion where nothing happened down here, found in the midst of it all, kicking your fucking own national son in the guts for the sake of a foreign bandwagon. What don't you know about private scum? What don't you know about people like privateers who kick fucking people in the guts just to get a reputation or just to get a fucking head lick or a dick lick? What don't you know about this in the world? This is at the heart and core of all the immunity in which even governments tend to try and counteract and counterpart. The grade level assessment capability of knowing right from wrong or understanding lawful and orderly. People do that. Not other countries do. The difference between America and Australia is that America understands poverty better than Australia. America has a $19.1 trillion economy, roughly, right across 320 million people over 52 states. Works out to be roughly about $36.5 billion per state, some states better off than others. In Australia, they have a $1.6 trillion economy, 25 million plus people, with 7 states. Works out to be about $228.5 billion per state, some states better off than others. And you wonder what is poverty? You wonder what the gap is between the rich and the poor? There's no excuse in a country like this. Where's the money going? Where is it? Where's the percentage? The people, the power, the prejudices, the predicament, the statistics, the information, and everything in the face of people and analysts and economists and that center. America are the world superpower. They are the powerhouse of humanity. Why? Because they understand poverty. In Australia, it's different. You kick your national sons and daughters in the guts. Social Security costs $191 billion a year because private people don't have a job for them. You're supposed to be giving them a job with your entitlements, with your wealth. If you don't have a job for them, then it explains for themselves what the government have to do. Then the common indemnity is like every taxpayer thinks they're paying Social Security wages to bums, right? That aren't even being regulated because it's just too, it's too much of a hefty administration. Private people, you're supposed to be giving people a job in this world. And if you haven't got a job for them, then that explains you. You see, it's about the power of the dollar, but the ability for you to be able to use a dollar. Some men and women and families have already done with a dollar what you have probably never done for somebody else's, just like the taxpayers' money. Some families have already done for their sons what you have never done for somebody else's. That creates valor. That creates prudence. It creates wisdom. It creates a safeguarded maturity of what it is to see things sensibly. It's not to be able to undermine or undermine the wealth of anybody in your community or country, period. You should never undermine the value or the wealth or the input of fellow country people or fellow humanitarians right around the world. The objective cosmopolitarianism would speak for itself. And you wouldn't see people kicked in the guts for the sake of exploitation, distribution. It wouldn't be a war factor. You people would create it that way because of a itinerant shortfall. Economic depression, saying everybody's depressed because everybody's so fucking depressed with their economic state, their financial situation, or what it is to not see people through religious oppression or suppressive lifestyles. To Australia was just summed up in one big word: depression. When some people are suffering religious persecution, religious oppression, or suppressed evidences against them. To allow marijuana legalized in a country like Australia or America. At what point is there a class action by those who have ever had to serve a stint in jail or suffer loss as a result of being arrested and jailed and fined for marijuana possession? And America is the world superpower in the face of the universe, and now they've become for them to legalize marijuana. Is that to actually explain the kind of people that is that to say that their integrity has been compromised, or is that to exemplify the kind of people that they always have been? Is that like Australia too? Is that the world we live in? I think so. So what about those class actions? What about people that have actually literally had to lose life, lose wages, lose families, lose anything, possessions, as a result of facing criminal indictment and sent in jail for being arrested for marijuana possession? Incriminating facts rather than the justifiable claims. There's no point incriminating people if it's justifiable. You don't go around and turn it around, do you? Oh, we were wrong. Let's side with the criminals. So you got all the weapons in the world to destroy the world. That's the way you've been conducting your life, through exemplification. The problem is you're losing the ideological war. Like equal opportunity employers, right? You're giving up on your own country people because they might smoke a cigarette, or not providing the kind of retreat that they require to be able to bolster and boost their efforts to work on your behalf, rather than formulate them as a fucking enemy or a underprivileged, disadvantaged person in your, See what I mean? You're losing the ideological war. That's where you're losing the war of ideology. You don't see yourself the way that God sees you or your own people sees you. We're a country built on hope, and hope is a great breakfast, but it's a lousy supper. So the sooner you get in and have breakfast, it's like saying life's great, but it's a lousy supper. It might only just pan out with a drink and that's it. Or a kind of soup that you made with creek water. You grow up believing in people. You believe in icons. You believe in people left, right, and centre. And then when it comes time for them to be able to step up and do the role, like the departments, like the law, like lawyers, they'll just slam the door in your face. They won't even help, and they're your only lifeline. Wouldn't it make you feel privileged and honoured to help someone that actually comes to you? If somebody came to you and needing help, would that not ever make you feel privileged and honoured? It's very hard to live a giving life and have a life of giving. Very difficult to have a life of to live a life of giving. People don't seem to know how to add on. It's what creates division. And yet division is supposed to make people stronger, but it goes further than that. It actually separates you and divides you because, like that addition factor, tax equals subtraction. So how do you subtract when you're in debt? You're always liable to be in the biggest debt you've ever been in the history of mankind. And paying what? What is your debt? You play a stock market? to cover up your stuff up, or how you misallocated funds or spending here and there. Tax equals subtraction. You had GST tax right across 10% of every goods and services in the country whilst you're in debt. You were always due to be in the greatest debt in the history of your existence as a country. Right? You taxed everything. Tax equals subtraction. Does that compromise your integrity? Or does that explain the standard of living that you always have been? Not knowing innovation ideas or what it is to be able to pick up the pace or provide for them. Statistics roll out, expenditure blows out because of that very factor. You know? It's not always the case where, okay, well, should we care? Well, you should. In the end, it'll only bring any country to ruin. To say it never happened, but it most very much did. There'd be ruins. There'd be areas of ruins. You'd know it. We're living in an age now where you can't forget. Digital technology won't allow people to forget. Times now people won't forget. So it's like some countries are hurrying up and praying to God you start the Third World War so you can start World War IV and murder you all through the law courts, and they don't give a fuck if you're rich or you're poor. They don't give a fuck if you got your picture in the Source or Forbes. And they don't give a fuck if you won an award on stage trying to thank God. They'll chop your tongue off with a sword. Leave your blood spilling all on the floor. And if it ain't a corpse, it's like getting struck with a cord or hung with a cord. Leave your corpse stiff as a board. Like frozen meat underthawed and buried you under the morgue, but getting in that way is like getting in front of a car breaking the sound barrier. Means the car's in front of the horn. Stab you in the temple with a floorboard. By the time you feel it hit you, it's gone. It sends you to hell where you belong, so by the time your body hits the floor, your spirit won't be in it no more. It's like your life's just like a fucking one big pole wrapped around it. She's the chassis, you're the fender, and the fucking steering wheel's 500 metres through the windscreen in another friggin' in another suburb. That's like the Garden of Eden. I don't know if that's the actual penis or the erected lifestyles in which you live. Either way, I'm not sure, but it's a bit like smash, crash, bang. If you speed to crash, you burn. Some of you people have trying to break a land speed record. You end up disintegrating. You've got a failed social integration policy before the war on immigration, and you wonder what's your greater strength, your greater reliability. You think you'd be too busy out there trying to pick up as many nationalites as you can and just make good with them. Like they're going to turn out being a good voice for you or something to some capacity to know where your strength is. Home is where the heart is. Or what it is to not even be discriminate in that fashion. It's like saying your sanctification, just knowing it. That's really sad. That's when you know that you've got a people that are sort of dead inside and out for lack of knowledge. The Bible says it in the book of Hosea. People are dead for lack of knowledge. Tree of life and opposed to the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They're just after too much knowledge, tossing it up. They become tossers. They tossing everything good and evil, bad and good. They can't get enough knowledge and radicalize the fuck out of knowledge. They toss it. They toss it so much, they actually lose sight of what it is to actually sustain life and human growth. Human conduct. Sound development, structural development. Sound structural development, given the growth, the graduation, the existence, the experience, designation and development all wrapped up in one of what you might like to call your greater sanctimony, your greater sanctity. You would know it, especially given the framework or the time frame in which to adjudicate certain practices. You couldn't just sit there and toss till you fall off. You know? That's what fucking impotence is. Impotent people that have just got all the fucking balls but no brains. No guts, no guts, no glory. No lead in their pencil. $55,000 car or vehicle ain't worth nothing but the goddamn $40 tubes with air in them in the tyres. Trying to break disintegrated cars. Got all the balls in the world, no brains, all fucking talk, no hype. You trap it up in your brain, before you know it, you're pissing out of your right mind. Because you got a bruised little emotion. Too much goddamn emotional discontent, even amongst yourselves, that, God, if you weren't full of zest and full of integrity and bolstered and boosted to that regard, your own employees would know it, your own people would know it. Point blank right in front of your face. And they think that you're an exceptional princes and princesses. They think you're a wonderful family and a wonderful power. But you don't even identify needs and meet needs where you can, right in front of their face. Like it's just, you're too precious. You're sooking. You can't forsake something unless you know it. So what is it to forsake something unless you know it? You know it. You do it point blank to each other's faces. You might have a lifestyle of, you might have by privileged people. You might be a privileged people. If you don't know anyone to keep it sweet, what the fuck you don't know anyone to keep it sweet, pardon the language. You do it point blank to each other. You're just not the zestful prince or princess. You're just not the qualitative someone or somewhat. You're just not that powerful figure. You're not as powerful as you might think you are. See, power of conductivity. You just get it done anyway. Even if you don't get foul. If something has to be done, just do it. Just clean it up. Just get it done. Don't compromise your environment by the sake of people like yourselves just fucking sooking, whinging, whatever. Right? Well, get it done. Change actually only happens when you change. Insane people are the people that do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result every time. That's like people that are passive. Passivity. Passive thinkers. Even in concentration camps, observation laboratories. You're passive. Until what point do you change? From the breakdown to the runoff. All the pressure underneath keeping up. Like the channel and curb. The rain coming down, the ground underneath you, and the runoff of the rain. You have an obligation. Individuals in their own right have an expectation of a right to fruitful engagements, fruit of any sort. The good of all labour is fruitful and edible. Right? People with certain proprietary ownership have a right to expect. They have a right to entitlement. They have a right to coherence or adherences or provisions. See, coherence really works when what you say and do adds up. When you people are too busy falsifying your outcomes and your lifestyles, living so secret, you aren't coherent. You probably suffer persecutory delusions, auditory hallucinations. Shit don't add up like microdots or a fine-tooth comb, and you can't even salvage or analyse for the life of you. Analysis is, you might call yourself an institution, but you might just be fucking prostitutes for everyone's convenience. On the corner, asking somebody to fuck you and be out of pocket so that you can professionalise like an institution of prostitutes. Again, like if you ask somebody to get a grip, that's like asking somebody to fuck you, and then that's wrong. You should fuck yourself. Say get off the tip, well there's nothing, you should concentrate what's in front of your face and stop sucking dick. Fucking nothing more outdated than a motherfucker, so please go fuck yourselves, really. Well, go fuck yourselves. Go fuck a pseudo-epidural. You know better. Go fuck your health. Go fuck anything, but don't fucking bring everybody else down because you just can't maintain or fucking sustain. Some of you people are so unprepossessive and ugly in this life that you will lock human growth hormones in a safe. That's like kidnapping your own child and sewing them in a basement underneath the house where nobody knew until the cops came along and arrested you in your $12 dress, which is really $4,000. The point I'm making is, It might have cost you $12 to walk down to the police station and hand yourself in, or whether that dress you wear, that evening gown or suit, is worth $4,000. It actually cost the law enforcement agency, the coppers themselves, $4,000 probably call out and all that, you know? That's what I mean. You could dream of unicorns your whole life and just settle for a dickhead. That's right, woman, he probably settled for a dickhead. And what it is for any goddamn whoever the hell, but really? Really? You know? You should separate. You should absolutely separate, not act like a Klingon. Or a clutch. Or just go tell everyone like narcissists, go tell someone to tell someone. And become guilty by association. In opposed to innocence of beauty and just get the F on with your life. Because we don't need to hear it. Nobody needs to hear it. It's good to go seek emotional support, but it can't dominate your conversation. It can't be the center of your world. Enough that everybody hears it and creates an indemnity that'll watch you people lose like dead at point A but alive at point B, and what the hell CD even E? Exhibition 1, Exhibition 2, Exhibition 3, Exhibition 4. Did you touch a head on your physical body? Or a hair on your body? No. Who threw the first punch? He did. But you just said he didn't touch you. It's rather strange. No employer invests in employees. Employees invest in employers. So the employer fired the employee? Bum rap. And that's a wrap.